transition to renewable energy in Nigeria is an important economic imperative that will drive the country's economy into sustainable growth. Players in the industry project that renewable energy will contribute at least 30% to the energy mix by the year 2030. With intensified efforts towards reducing dependence on fossil fuel by introducing new energy sources, it is believed that the transition to clean energy will bring immense economic and climate benefits to Nigeria and the African continent at large. Joining us via Zoom from Lagos on the conversation this morning is Bala Zakka. He is an oil and gas expert. You're welcome to Business Express. Can you hear me, Mr. Bala Zakka? Please unmute.
Okay, thank you very much. And I greet our viewers across the globe.
Great. Now, Nigeria's inflation has reached an all-time high of 33.2% in annual terms, and it seems to be driven by soaring food and energy costs despite central bank rate hikes. From the energy perspective, what is the way to go?
Well, for now, the shocks are likely to remain. Generally, when policies instigate shocks like this or spikes like this, we will generally expect a rise in whatever aspect of the economy that will be affected, whether you're talking about the macroeconomic variables or microeconomic variables. After a while, we will expect the shocks to start reducing and to get to a point where they will be flat, or what we technically call they will get to a plateau. And depending on the effect, positive or negative effects of the policies, the shocks may start coming down. In the context of the inflation, of course, we knew what happened recently, the floating of the naira. We saw what happened to the cash reserve ratio. We saw what happened recently about the unexpected increase in electricity tariff. And we also knew that somehow, somewhere, the minimum wage in Nigeria has been very low. We also are aware that due to insecurity, so many of our youths and people or fellow citizens that are in the villages cannot go to the farms. We also are aware that somehow, somewhere, because of high energy costs, strategic industrial sectors, strategic domestic sectors, and strategic commercial sectors are groaning. They are finding it difficult to break even. So to some extent, some of us are not really surprised that the inflation figures are rising. But it is our hope also that the policies that our government are putting in place will be friendly. And if they are friendly, definitely our individuals and corporate citizens will thrive. And at the end of the day, we are likely to see the inflation figures coming down. But at the moment, it's not looking clear that there will be green light towards the end of the horizon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, how feasible is the 2030 projection?
Well, in the context of Nigeria, we've seen projections made. We've seen plans made, but most of the time when you put the plan or you try matching the plan versus the actual, you are likely to always see high deviations. Why that happens may not be clear, but sometimes you could also come up with the technical reasons. If you can remember, sometimes last year or late last year, there was this news that the refinery was mechanically completed. That statement was a technical statement. only those who were in the industry got clarifications. But as far as the common Nigerians and watchers were concerned, people felt the refineries were going to work. Some of us felt that there was a need to create that gestation or allowance into the first quarter of 2024 and probably into the Q2 or second quarter of 2024. So for people like me, it is after the second quarter of 2024, which is the end of June, that some of us will begin to know whether we should appreciate the government or advise the government or practically criticize the government. So when you look at the context of Nigeria, goals are set, but many reasons could also be could cause shift in goals, and target achievements. But as far as our energy mix is concerned, and in the context of Nigeria, if we put our acts together, it's an achievable target. But because of failures in achieving previous targets, most of the time when it comes to the context of Nigeria, we always say, well, it will be a question of let's wait and see.
Now, how would you rate Nigeria's performance so far in the transition process?
Well, for me, when you look at it in the context of Nigeria, let everybody get me right and quote me here. Uh, Individually, Nigerians are great across the globe. Individually, Nigerians are great. We don't need to start rolling out or itemizing the fields. But across the globe, individually, regardless of the field you're going to talk about, Nigerians are great. But when working as a team, when working together to project Nigeria, somehow, somewhere, we are always behind the target, we are always behind the curve. So for me personally, I tie it to most likely policy directions. And when you come out with policies, of course, policies are statements that define national philosophies in the context of government or nations, and must be seen to be reflected in the political thinking of leaders, because we are in political democracy and political governance. So it is one thing to come up with policies. It is one thing for the policies to be friendly or unfriendly. It is importantly another thing to see how the policies will be implemented. So most of the time, I think it is the implementation that has always been putting us behind the curve.
The national plan is tipped to be the best economic plan so far. What do we need as a country for adequate implementation?
Well, when you talk about adequate implementation, the first thing is to come out clean. Whenever you come out with policies, make sure, first of all, they are friendly, make sure they are properly disseminated. Dissemination of information is very important, because if it is not properly communicated, then people could misinterpret your policies and get them wrong. Then when you come to the implementation, all those saddled with the responsibility must carry out their activities in national interest. We need to be very frank and honest to ourselves here. Most of the time, when we start doing things in the context of Nigeria, sometimes we look at things from from political directions. We look at things from demographic directions. We look at things from sectional direction. But when you talk about nation building, it's always better to look at things from national interest. Let us always do what is right, not what is good. Because something can look good or something can be good, but it is not right. If
Okay.
we're ready to do the right things in national interest, we are surely going to get it right. Because, like we said, individually, we are great across the globe. But
Okay.
when we come in national interest, or we want to carry out activities that have to do with our national interest, you see divisions. And those are the areas, or that is the area that we need to really confront. Because
Good.
synergy
Before
is what
before
will
I
make
let you
us a
go,
great nation.
before I let you go, With increase in electricity tariff, the demand for alternative energy is on the rise. How can Nigeria balance its energy needs with its climate goals?
Okay, let's look at it from another perspective. When there is increase in energy, I bet you strategic sectors run into problems. And when they run into problems, they will not do well. Look at the case of diesel. I can tell you, as a practitioner in the oil and gas industry, I attend morning meetings across companies. One of the biggest challenges they are having is the challenge of diesel. Because when you talk about the trucks, when you talk about the vessels, when you talk about the rigs, they are all running on diesel. And at the current cost of diesel, it will be very difficult to break even. Nigerians tried going towards electricity this time around, the electricity they can get from the national grid. And with this increase, almost 300% increase, it will be difficult for Nigerians to try. So it is
Thank
not
you.
about whether we are going into renewable energy, or we want to talk about energy mix. Even if we get there, how affordable will it be? It is the affordability that citizens are more interested in. While the policies or the ideas may be great, but if you cannot afford it, if you cannot use it to be able to create aggregate mobility of activities so that you will
All right.
generate revenues and comply with your civic responsibilities of
All
paying
right.
taxes and levies, then the
All right,
government
Mr.
policy in that
Zakka.
direction is not
Thank
effective.
you. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on the program today.
Thank you.
All right. Have a nice day.